Alien girl mistook the human scent as a ritual signal. Her embarrassed truth softened him. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main characters. Jason Miller had seen many strange things in his life as a deep space explorer, but nothing quite like the alien planet he found himself on now. The vibrant, alien landscape stretched before him, bathed in soft violet light from the twin moons above. A gentle breeze carried the sweet, earthy scent of the alien flora. But Jason wasn't paying much attention to the beauty around him. His focus was on a single figure moving silently in the distance. Arizorith, a stunning alien woman, her blue skin glowing faintly in the dim light, her eyes sharp and observant. She had watched him since he arrived, her gaze intense and unwavering. Jason had no idea what to make of her, but he couldn't deny the odd connection he felt. He had spent weeks on this planet, and he had encountered many different species, but Era was different. Her presence had an otherworldly quality that both intrigued and unsettled him. It wasn't just her appearance that set her apart. It was the way she moved, the way she seemed to understand the planet in ways no one else did. Jason had been assigned to investigate the strange signals coming from the planet, a mission that had led him here to meet Era and the other inhabitants. But as he followed her through the dense, bioluminescent forest, something felt off. He couldn't put his finger on it, but there was a tension in the air that made his senses heighten. Era paused suddenly, her head tilting slightly as she sniffed the air. Jason stopped in his tracks, confused. "Is something wrong?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. Era turned to him, her eyes narrowing as if she had just figured something out. Without a word, she stepped closer to him, her movements fluid and graceful, yet there was a noticeable hesitation in her step. Jason's heart began to race, not from fear, but from the strange pull he felt whenever she was near. She stopped inches away from him, her gaze locked on his face as if she were reading him in a way no one else could. And then she inhaled deeply. Jason blinked, confused. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice thick with unease. "Your scent," Era whispered, almost to herself. "It is familiar." Jason's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean, familiar?" Era's eyes widened, as if she realized she had spoken too much. She quickly stepped back, a slight blush staining her cheeks. I mistook your scent for something else. A ritual signal. Something from my people. It's a mistake," she stammered, her voice now laced with embarrassment. Jason's mind raced as he tried to make sense of what she was saying. He knew that scent played an important role in many alien cultures, but he never imagined it would be this complex. He could see the discomfort in Era's eyes as she struggled to explain herself. And then, something shifted in him. He understood. The tension in the air wasn't just about the misunderstanding. It was the way she had been thrown off balance by her own mistake. Her confidence, usually so unshakable, had cracked just for a moment. Jason smiled softly, his expression warm as he stepped closer to her. "It's okay," he said gently, his voice calm. "I'm not upset. It's a little funny, actually." Era looked up at him, her embarrassment turning into something else. A tentative smile began to form on her lips, and Jason saw the shift in her. The vulnerability that had been hidden beneath her confident exterior was now exposed, and it made her seem more human. The two stood there for a moment, caught in the awkwardness of the situation, but something unspoken passed between them. It wasn't just about the misunderstanding anymore. It was about the understanding that had followed it. Jason could tell that Era, in her own way, was beginning to see him not just as a human, an outsider, but as someone who could understand her, too. And in that moment, the gap between their species didn't feel as wide. The warmth between them grew as they shared a quiet laugh, and for a brief second, it seemed like nothing else mattered. Jason stood there for a moment, still processing the situation. Era, the alien girl, was now looking at him with a mixture of embarrassment and something else, curiosity. He could see her trying to regain her composure, but there was a flicker of something deeper in her eyes, something that made Jason feel a strange warmth. She had just made a mistake, a small one, but it was enough to shake her usually confident demeanor. It was a side of her that Jason hadn't seen before. He had always known her as the composed and mysterious alien, but now, she was just like him, human in her vulnerability. "So, you're telling me that your people have rituals based on scent?" Jason asked, trying to ease the awkwardness. Era hesitated before nodding, her eyes never leaving his. "Yes," she said softly, her voice still carrying that hint of uncertainty. "Scent is a very important part of our communication. It's how we convey feelings, intentions, and even status within our society. I thought your scent was a signal for something else." Jason chuckled softly, not in mockery, but out of genuine amusement. "Well, I can assure you, Era, I wasn't trying to send any kind of signal." Era's face flushed even deeper at his words, and for a brief moment, Jason wondered if she was truly embarrassed or if she was simply not used to admitting mistakes. He smiled to himself, thinking about how different things were here. On Earth, misunderstandings happened all the time, but he never imagined being caught in one like this, especially not with an alien. The silence between them stretched for a few more seconds before Era finally broke it, her voice more steady now. "I apologize," she said. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. It's just, in my culture, scent carries so much meaning." Jason nodded, understanding more now. "It's okay, really," he said. "I get it. We have our own ways of communicating back on Earth, too, and I'm sure they'd be confusing to you as well." Era tilted her head, her curiosity piqued once again. "Like what?" Jason thought for a moment before answering. "Well, like the way we greet each other. Sometimes a handshake means respect, other times it's just a casual greeting. But it's different for everyone. And then there's our body language. In some cultures, people make eye contact when they want to show trust, but in others, it's considered rude." Era listened intently, her gaze fixed on him. "It's strange," she murmured. "The more I learn about your species, the more I realize how different we are." Jason smiled at her, his eyes softening. "Yeah, we're different. But that's what makes us interesting, right?" Era didn't respond immediately, but the slight curve of her lips suggested she agreed with him. It was then that Jason realized just how much he had come to enjoy their conversations. Despite the differences in their worlds, there was something about Era that made him feel understood, even in moments like this. He was starting to look forward to their interactions in a way he hadn't expected. "You know," Jason said after a moment, "this whole situation might be a little embarrassing, but I think it's kind of funny too." Era raised an eyebrow at him. "Funny?" she repeated, clearly intrigued. Jason nodded, his smile widening. "Yeah, I mean, who knew that scent could be so important? I guess next time, I'll have to be careful what I smell like around you." Era's eyes sparkled with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. "I'll be sure to warn you, then," she said, her voice lightening. It was a brief moment of levity, but it was enough to shift the mood between them. The tension from earlier seemed to evaporate, replaced by a comfortable understanding. Jason felt the walls between them begin to break down, and for the first time since he arrived on this planet, he truly felt like he wasn't alone. Era wasn't just an alien to him anymore. She was someone he could connect with. And in that moment, he realized that maybe, just maybe, they were more alike than he had originally thought. Jason and Era spent the next few hours walking through the alien landscape, the conversation shifting from their awkward misunderstanding to lighter topics. They talked about their respective worlds, their cultures, and even their favorite things. Jason had to admit that despite the initial tension, he was starting to enjoy Era's company more than he had expected. As they walked, Jason noticed how Era seemed to relax in his presence, her movements less tense and more fluid. It was as if the burden of her mistake had lifted, and with it, the walls between them began to crumble. The bioluminescent plants around them glowed softly, casting a serene light on their path. Jason marveled at the beauty of the landscape, but it was Era's presence that made it feel even more extraordinary. He had never been one to believe in destiny or fate, but something about this moment felt right. "You know," Jason said, breaking the comfortable silence, "this place is incredible. I never imagined I'd find something so beautiful." Era looked up at him, her silver eyes reflecting the soft glow of the plants. "Our world is beautiful in its own way," she said, "but it's different from Earth. We have much more to learn from your species than we thought." Jason smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. I think we're all just trying to figure things out, no matter where we come from. Era gave him a curious glance. What do you mean? Jason thought for a moment before answering. Well, take Earth, for example. We've had our share of problems. Wars, poverty, inequality, but we keep trying to move forward. We don't always get it right, but we keep learning from our mistakes. Era was quiet for a moment, as if processing his words. I see, she said finally. Your species is resilient. Maybe, Jason said, shrugging. But I think resilience is something all species have. It's what helps us keep going, even when things seem impossible. As they walked further into the alien forest, they came across a small clearing. In the center stood an ancient-looking stone structure, partially covered in moss. Era stopped, her gaze fixed on the structure. This is a sacred place, she said softly. Jason's curiosity piqued. A sacred place? What do you mean? Era nodded, her eyes distant. It's a place where our ancestors communicated with the stars. We believe it's where our connection to the universe is strongest. Jason was intrigued. He stepped closer to the structure, admiring its intricate carvings. That's amazing, he said, looking at Era. I've always been fascinated by how different cultures view the universe. It's like we're all searching for something bigger than ourselves. Era's gaze softened, and she took a step closer to him. We are searching, she said quietly. But sometimes, we don't know what we're searching for until we find it. Jason looked at her, his heart unexpectedly racing. There was something about her words that resonated with him, something deeper than the simple exchange of information. It was a connection, an understanding that he hadn't experienced before. Era's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, it felt as though the universe itself had paused, as if they were the only two beings in existence. Maybe we're both searching for the same thing, Jason said, his voice barely above a whisper. Era didn't respond immediately, but the soft smile that appeared on her lips spoke volumes. Perhaps, she said, her voice just as quiet. The moment stretched between them, filled with a quiet understanding that neither of them had words for. And for the first time since arriving on this alien planet, Jason felt at peace. It wasn't just the alien landscape or the strange beauty of the world around him. It was the presence of Era, the alien girl who had once been a mystery to him, but was now someone he felt he could trust. He wasn't sure where this journey would lead, but in that moment, he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't alone anymore. The next day, Jason and Era continued their exploration of the alien world. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of strange flowers, and the skies above shimmered with distant stars, visible even in the daytime. Era had suggested they visit an ancient site she had heard about from her people, a place where their ancestors had once gathered to meditate and learn from the stars. Jason was curious, but he also felt a growing sense of familiarity with the planet. It was as if the world was becoming more real to him, more like home, thanks to Era's companionship. As they walked, the conversation shifted from light-hearted banter to more thoughtful exchanges. Jason found himself asking Era more about her people, her culture, and the history of her world. Era seemed eager to share, and with each story, Jason felt more connected to her. Our ancestors believed that the stars were not just distant objects, Era explained as they trudged through a patch of tall grass, her voice carrying a note of reverence. They believed that the stars were the eyes of the universe, watching over us, guiding us. Jason smiled at her words. That's not too different from what we believe on Earth. We look to the stars for answers, for a sense of meaning. Era turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the distant sun. I've always wondered, she said, her voice soft, if the answers we seek are already within us, waiting to be discovered. Jason paused, considering her words. Maybe, but sometimes, we need to look beyond ourselves to find the truth. Era seemed to think for a moment, then nodded. Perhaps you're right. We are all looking for something, aren't we? Yeah, Jason said with a slight chuckle. Even if we don't always know what that something is. They continued on in silence for a while, each of them lost in their own thoughts. The air around them was quiet, save for the occasional rustling of leaves or the distant chirp of alien creatures. Eventually, they reached the site Era had mentioned. It was a circular stone structure, ancient but well-preserved, with markings that seemed to pulse with a soft, otherworldly glow. Era stepped forward, her expression solemn. This is where my people gathered to connect with the stars, she said. We used to believe that the stones held the knowledge of our ancestors, that by meditating here, we could hear their voices. Jason approached the stones, his hand lightly grazing the surface. It's beautiful, he said, his voice filled with awe. It's hard to imagine how old this place must be. Era smiled, though there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. It's been here for centuries. My people once revered it, but now it's mostly forgotten. Only a few of us still come here to honor our ancestors. Jason looked at her, sensing the depth of emotion behind her words. Do you still come here often? Era paused, then nodded. Yes, I come to remind myself of where I come from, to remember who I am. There was a quiet strength in her voice, a conviction that Jason couldn't help but admire. He stepped closer to her, his expression serious. You know, I've learned a lot from you, Era, he said. Not just about your world, but about how to look at things differently, to understand what really matters. Era turned to face him, her eyes softening. And I've learned from you, too, Jason, she replied. You've shown me that there's more to life than following traditions. That sometimes, the most important thing is to find your own path. Jason smiled at her, a warmth spreading through him. Maybe that's what we're both doing then, finding our own way. The two stood there for a while, side by side, gazing at the stars overhead. It wasn't just the beauty of the place or the mystery of the stones that made the moment so powerful. It was the understanding between them, the shared sense of discovery. They weren't just learning about each other's worlds anymore. They were learning about themselves, together. For the first time since arriving on this alien planet, Jason felt as if he belonged, not just to the planet or to the mission, but to something deeper, something that tied him to Era and to this strange, beautiful world. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the landscape, Jason felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in years. He wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, he was ready to face it. With Era by his side, the journey ahead didn't seem so uncertain. It felt like the beginning of something new, something meaningful. Jason and Era continued their journey through the alien landscape, now growing more familiar with each step. The vibrant bioluminescent plants seemed to whisper as the wind passed through them, creating a gentle hum in the air. As the days passed, their conversations became more comfortable, and Jason found himself looking forward to each exchange. They had shared many moments together now, learning from each other, understanding their differences, and appreciating their similarities. Jason could feel the bond between them strengthening, even though neither of them had voiced what it meant yet. One evening, as they sat by a glowing creek under the stars, Jason turned to Era with a thoughtful expression. I never thought I'd find myself here, he said, his voice soft. I mean, not just on this planet, but in this situation. It's strange how everything seems to be falling into place. Era looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the light of the distant stars. Falling into place, she repeated, as if testing the words. Jason nodded. Yeah, I came here to do a job, to explore. But now, it feels like something bigger is happening. Like maybe this is where I'm supposed to be, with you, in this moment. Era remained silent for a moment, her gaze turning to the creek, watching the ripples shimmer in. The light. I never thought I'd find someone like you, she said quietly. Someone who doesn't just see me as an alien, but as a person. It's comforting. Jason's heart skipped a beat at her words. He had always known that Era was more than just an alien, more than just someone from another world. She had a depth, a complexity that fascinated him, and he felt drawn to her in a way he couldn't explain. I'm glad you feel that way, he said, his voice genuine. Because I do see you, Era. I see you for who you are, not just where you come from. And I'm starting to realize that makes all the difference. Era turned to face him fully now, her expression softer than before. It's not always easy, she said, her voice tinged with vulnerability. Living in two worlds, being different, it's complicated. Jason nodded, understanding more than he could express. I get it, he said, but maybe we don't have to have all the answers. Maybe it's enough to just be here, with each other, and figure things out together. There was a quiet pause between them, a moment of unspoken understanding. Then Era smiled, a small but genuine smile that made Jason's heart lift. You know, Jason, she said, her voice warm, I think you're right. Maybe that's all we really need. They sat there for a while longer, the night growing cooler as the stars continued to shine above them. In that moment, it felt like time had slowed down, and all that mattered was the simple presence of the other. Jason wasn't sure what the future would hold, but for the first time since arriving on this alien planet, he didn't feel so alone. He had Era by his side, and that was enough for now. As they stood to leave, Era reached out, her hand brushing against his. It was a simple gesture, but it meant more than words could say. They didn't need to speak it aloud. They both knew something had changed. Something had shifted between them, and they were no longer just two people from different worlds. They were two people sharing something real, something that transcended their differences and connected them in a way that neither could fully explain. And as they walked back to camp together, side by side, Jason couldn't help but smile. Maybe this was the beginning of something more than he had ever imagined. A new chapter, not just in his mission, but in his life. As the days passed, Jason and Era's connection deepened. They spent their time exploring the strange, yet beautiful landscapes of the alien planet, learning from each other in ways neither had expected. Despite the distance between their cultures, their bond felt natural, like something that had always been meant to happen. One morning, as they walked along a ridge overlooking a vast valley below, Jason stopped to admire the view. The valley stretched out before them, a patchwork of lush, vibrant colors under the bright sun. It was a sight unlike anything he had ever seen on Earth. Era, too, seemed entranced by the view, her eyes scanning the horizon with a sense of calm. "It's beautiful," Jason said, his voice filled with awe. "I never imagined anything like this. The colors, the life, the peace." Era turned to him, a soft smile on her lips. "Our world has its share of beauty," she said, "but it also has its dangers. The balance between the two is delicate." Jason nodded, his thoughts drifting. "That's how Earth is, too. Beautiful but fragile. We're still learning how to take care of it." Era's gaze softened as she looked at him. "I think all species are learning, Jason. Sometimes we forget that, but we are all part of the same universe. What happens to one species affects the others, whether we realize it or not." Jason looked at her, the weight of her words sinking in. "You're right. I guess I never thought of it that way. We often see ourselves as separate, as if what we do doesn't affect others." Era met his gaze, her eyes steady and thoughtful. "It's easy to think that way, especially when we are so different from each other. But in the end, we all share this world, this galaxy, and it's our responsibility to take care of it, together." There was a quiet pause as Jason absorbed her words. For a moment, he felt as if the weight of the universe was pressing down on him. But it wasn't a burden. It was a responsibility, a shared understanding. "I guess we're both learning," Jason said after a while, his voice lighter. "And we still have a lot to discover." Era smiled, a genuine warmth in her expression. "Yes, and I think we're doing it well. Together." As they continued on their path, Jason felt a sense of clarity he hadn't experienced before. Era had shown him a different way of seeing the world, through her eyes, through the eyes of someone who had lived with the knowledge that everything was interconnected. It was a way of thinking that made him realize how much he had yet to learn, not just about the universe, but about himself. They walked in silence for a while, the sounds of the alien world around them calming and peaceful. Jason could feel the weight of the past few days lifting, replaced by a quiet sense of fulfillment. He wasn't just on this planet to fulfill a mission. He was here for something deeper, something that went beyond exploration or survival. He was here to connect, to understand, and to grow. And with Era by his side, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he wasn't facing them alone. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the valley, Jason turned to Era. "Thank you," he said softly, "for everything. For showing me this, for helping me understand." Era's smile was the brightest thing Jason had seen all day. "You don't need to thank me," she replied. "We're both learning. We're both finding our way." Jason nodded, feeling the truth of her words settle in his heart. The universe was vast, and their journey was just beginning. But with Era by his side, Jason felt ready to face whatever came next. They continued walking, side by side, as the alien landscape stretched out before them, full of promise, full of mystery, and full of the unknown. But for the first time, Jason wasn't afraid. He had found something greater than he had ever imagined. And that something was not just the alien world, or the stars above. It was the connection they shared, something that transcended the boundaries of space, time, and species. As the days turned into weeks, Jason and Era's bond continued to grow stronger. They had become inseparable, learning from each other and sharing experiences in ways neither had anticipated. Each day brought new challenges and discoveries, but through it all, they had come to rely on one another. One evening, as they stood on a hill overlooking a vast forest, Jason couldn't help but marvel at how much he had changed since arriving on the alien planet. The views, the people, the culture, it was all so different, yet he had found a place here, a sense of belonging that he hadn't known he was looking for. "I never thought I'd be here, doing this," Jason said, his voice carrying in the quiet air. "When I left Earth, I had no idea what I was getting into. But now, I can't imagine being anywhere else." Era stood beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon, the soft glow of the setting sun catching her features. "You found something important here, Jason," she said. "I can see it in your eyes." Jason turned to her, surprised by the intensity of her words. "What do you mean?" Era's expression softened, and she looked at him with an understanding that went beyond words. "You've learned to see the world differently, not just as an explorer or an outsider, but as someone who's truly connected to this place." Jason took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words settle in his chest. "I guess I have. I never realized how much I needed this kind of connection. With the planet, with the people, with you." Era met his gaze, her silver eyes glinting in the fading light. "And what do you plan to do with this connection?" she asked, her voice calm, but laced with curiosity. Jason thought for a moment. He had always been a man of action, of purpose. But now, he was beginning to understand that not everything needed to be figured out right away. "I don't know yet," he admitted. "But I think I'm starting to realize that it's not just about where I'm from or what I'm supposed to do. It's about who I'm with and what we can create together." Era smiled, a soft but knowing smile that seemed to echo in the quiet of the world around them. "That's the most important part," she said. "Understanding that everything is connected and that the journey is just as important as the destination." The words hung in the air between them, like the soft breeze that rustled through the leaves. Jason felt something stir in him, something that went beyond the physical and the intellectual. It was a deep, unspoken connection, one that tied him not only to Era but to the very planet they stood on. "You're right," Jason said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "This journey, it's something more than I ever imagined." They stood together for a while, side by side, watching as the last rays of the sun dipped below the horizon. The world around them was peaceful, almost serene, and for the first time since arriving, Jason felt a sense of calm wash over him. It wasn't just the beauty of the alien planet or the strange wonders it held. It was the quiet understanding between him and Era. It was the realization that they had found something worth holding on to, something that transcended the differences between their worlds. "Do you ever wonder what's next?" Jason asked, his voice still soft, almost thoughtful. Era turned to him, her expression serene. "I think about it sometimes," she said. "But I've learned that it's not always about knowing what's next. Sometimes, it's about being present in the moment and letting the future unfold on its own." Jason smiled, feeling the weight of her wisdom settle into his heart. "I think that's something I'm learning too." Era placed a hand on his arm, a simple gesture, but one that spoke volumes. "We're both learning," she said, her voice quiet but full of meaning. Jason nodded, his heart lighter than it had been in days. The future was uncertain, but with Era by his side, he knew he wasn't facing it alone. The journey they had begun was just that, a journey. And for the first time, Jason felt ready to embrace whatever came next. Jason and Era continued to explore the alien world, their bond growing deeper with each passing day. The landscape around them was ever-changing, a constant reminder of the vastness of the planet and the mysteries it held. As they traveled, they encountered new creatures, strange plants, and breathtaking natural wonders. But despite the constant wonder of their surroundings, it was the moments shared between them that Jason cherished the most. One evening, as they set up camp by a tranquil lake, the sky painted in shades of purple and gold, Era turned to him with a thoughtful expression. "Jason," she began, her voice soft but steady, "do you ever think about what life was like before all of this?" Jason glanced up at her, surprised by the question. He had never really thought about the past in much detail since arriving on the alien planet. Before, he repeated, as if tasting the word. I suppose. I used to think about Earth a lot. My life there, the people I left behind. But now, it feels like I've stepped into a whole new world. A world that's hard to even compare to anything back home. Era nodded, her gaze far away, as though contemplating something deeper. I understand. It's the same for me, in a way. I've lived my life with certain expectations, with the belief that everything has its place. But now, everything seems so uncertain, so different. Jason took a deep breath, the weight of her words sinking in. I get that. On Earth, we're constantly told we have to follow a certain path. But out here, it feels like there's no map. No rules. We're making our own way. Era looked at him, her silver eyes shimmering in the soft light of the evening. Exactly, she said, her voice tinged with a quiet resolve. I've always lived within the boundaries of what I was taught. But out here, with you, I feel like I'm learning to be something more. Something beyond what I've known. Jason was quiet for a moment, his thoughts drifting. He had never expected to find this kind of connection, not in a place so far from home. And yet, here he was, standing on the edge of a strange world, sharing these quiet moments with someone who, despite their differences, seemed to understand him in ways he had never known. Era, he said softly, his voice carrying a weight of sincerity. I never thought I'd find someone like you. Someone who challenges the way I see the world. You make me think about things differently. Era smiled, a small but genuine smile that warmed him in a way nothing else could. I feel the same way, Jason. Before you came here, I never thought I would find someone who would make me question everything I knew. But now, I see things with new eyes. They sat in silence for a while, the sound of the gentle waves lapping at the shore the only noise around them. It was a peaceful, almost surreal moment, as if time itself had paused to let them breathe. Finally, Jason broke the silence. Do you ever wonder what's next? He asked, his voice almost hesitant. Era turned to face him, her expression thoughtful. I do wonder, she said slowly. But I think I've realized that we can't always control what happens next. We can only control how we respond, how we move forward. Jason nodded, a sense of calm settling over him. He didn't have all the answers, and maybe he never would. But with Era by his side, he felt more prepared to face whatever came next. You're right, he said softly. We don't need to know what's next. We just need to keep going. Together. Era reached out, her hand brushing his lightly. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. No words were necessary. They both understood that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And in that moment, Jason felt a sense of peace, knowing that, for once, he wasn't alone. The future was uncertain, but with Era beside him, he was ready to embrace whatever it held. As the days continued to pass, Jason and Era found themselves spending more and more time together, each day a step further into the unknown. They had explored much of the planet, uncovered its mysteries, and learned from one another in ways that were unexpected. Yet, despite everything they had already discovered, there was still an unspoken question hanging between them, one neither of them had dared to ask aloud until now. One morning, as the sun rose over the alien horizon, casting its warm, golden light across the landscape, Jason and Era sat by the edge of a clearing, looking out at the vast expanse before them. It was a place they had visited before, but today it felt different. The air seemed charged with a sense of anticipation, as if the world itself was waiting for something to happen. Jason, Era began, her voice soft, yet steady. Have you ever wondered what we're truly meant to do here? I mean, on this planet, together, with everything that's happened. Jason looked at her, his heart skipping a beat. The question had been on his mind for a while, but hearing it from her made it feel more real, more urgent. I think about it every day, he admitted, his gaze fixed on the horizon. When I first came here, I had a mission. I was just doing my job, following orders. But now, I feel like I'm part of something bigger, something that's not just about exploration or survival. Era's eyes met his, her expression thoughtful. I felt the same way. It's like, we've been brought together for a reason, but we don't know what that reason is yet. Jason nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words. Maybe that's the journey, he said. Maybe it's not about knowing the answers right now. Maybe it's about being present, living through the unknown together, and trusting that we'll figure it out as we go. Era smiled, her gaze softening. I think you're right. The unknown doesn't seem so frightening when you have someone to share it with. Jason felt a sense of warmth spread through him at her words. It was true. The uncertainty that had once seemed so overwhelming now felt more like an adventure, something he was ready to face, so long as Era was by his side. For a long while, neither of them spoke, simply sitting in the quiet stillness of the morning, the sound of the wind rustling through the trees the only noise around them. In that moment, everything felt perfectly aligned. The vast, alien world around them seemed to echo their unspoken connection, the bond that had formed between them. Era broke the silence after some time, her voice carrying a note of resolve. Whatever happens next, Jason, I want you to know that I'm grateful for everything we've shared. You've shown me things I never thought possible. You've helped me see a new way of being, of thinking. Jason turned to her, his expression sincere. And you've done the same for me, Era. You've helped me realize that there's more to life than following the path I thought was set for me. You've shown me the beauty in the unexpected. Era reached out, her hand brushing gently against his. It was a simple gesture, but it felt like a promise, a quiet declaration that they were in this together. I'm not sure where the future will take us, Era said, her voice quiet. But I know one thing for sure. I don't want to face it without you. Jason's heart swelled at her words. You won't have to, he said, his voice steady. We'll face it together, whatever comes. As they sat there, side by side, Jason felt a sense of peace settle over him. The road ahead was uncertain, and they still had much to learn, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid. He had Era by his side, and together, they would face whatever the universe had in store for them. The sun rose higher in the sky, casting its warm glow across the land, as Jason and Era stood together, ready for whatever came next. The future was theirs to discover, and they would do it together, one step at a time.